07 Commanders. In this episode, I want to talk about manufacturing materials. In the early days, before Frontier made changes to the engineering materials, new players were recommended to come to Dave's Hope. Dave's Hope is a settlement. I'm at Dave's Hope right now. And in this settlement, there are several nodes that you could drive around and pick up manufacturing materials. Low grade, but several of them you could get up to rank 4 in some, but each node is completely random. Once you've driven the little loop and picked up all the nodes, you'd be forced to log out to the main menu and then back into the game to force the respawn of those nodes. And you'd have to repeat that process until you collected enough of the manufacturing materials that you were looking for. Or for a time period up to hours, or until your SRV was completely out of fuel, to collect a substantial amount of manufacturing materials that you didn't need to come and find more for at least 2 ships of engineering's worth. The other alternative was to blow up ships and pick up the manufacturing materials that would drop from the blown ship, from the destroyed ship. The third old method was the high encoded signals in specific systems based on the governance, high population, and then the state of the system. You would net about 15 rank 5 manufacturing materials per instance of high encoded signal. The trick to force the respawn of the high encoded signal was that you'd have to go into the instance of the signal, pick up the material, jump back into Super Cruise, and in the Super Cruise animation, hit X so you come to a complete stop, log out of the game completely, rejoin the game again to force the respawn, and then the high encoded signal would be the nearest unknown signal to you that you could just jump back in and pick up your 15 rank 5 materials, jump back out, and repeat the process. The problem with this is that it would take about 3 minutes to 4 minutes per log out of the game completely and then rejoin the game, go through all the wait period that it takes to boot your game up. So you'd have to find signals that had a high enough duration timer so you can make it over to the instance, collect it, log out, and back in. So that was the tedious part. They have changed that since the update where Frontier finally addressed this problem and increased the number of nodes, as you've seen at Jameson Craft's site, to pick up encoded, and created a little bit more low-grade raw material fields in and around that location. They also changed the high encoded signals where you could go into one instance and max out one category of rank 5 manufacturing materials. Much better. Kind of prove my point here. Go into my SRV and do this little quick loop of picking up the materials. And demonstrate why you had to log in and log out. And why this process is very slow and cumbersome. To always have to be able to log out of the game because, you know, it just was not a very intuitive method, and they should actually improve this more. I've done this loop pretty often, so if I'm driving fast, and I apologize. Here's the data port. This data port also refreshes each time you log in and out. It does not take very much time to actually do this loop because we are now done. The other white markers on the map are 4 comlink ports that you can scan to pick up some lore knowledge about this location. Aside from that, from here you would literally have to log out, main menu, and then back in. This process often discourages new players because they think that they've collected all the materials that they need in one go around, and that is not the case. As you can see, they're all back on the ground again. Each of these locations that you go to are random, and there is a chart here that will kind of show the different materials that you could find at each node point along the route. Okay. So if you're looking for any one specific item, you'd have to play the range game and hope that you get enough of that one item to drop and to get enough for whatever blueprint you're working on. However, I'm going to show you a much better way about getting engineering materials after Frontier changes. You don't have to get into your SRB, but you do need to pilot around different systems to track down high encoded. But that is not as bad as doing this for hours when you could do the same amount of time and have far more engineering materials in comparison. All right, I'm in the neighborhood of Muang. All right, I'm just one jump away. All right. Now that I'm in a little bit closer, I can actually show you that there's several systems here that you could go to that are all within one jump range of Muang that you could find high encoded signals. That was the point here. And in this system up here in Kromdoa is a material trader for manufacturing. So once you get your encoded signals, you could trade them up. And to find high encoded signals, the fastest way is just using your full spectrum scanner and just start bouncing through the signals here. Sometimes it might seem like you're not going to find them, but they're here. And they're usually going to be on the outside of the area. There we go, war state. So this war state's going to either drop military alloys or imperial shielding. So once we found it, we make sure our filter only has signals. We just zip down to the high encoded, oops, and super cruise it over. It has 16 minutes left on this duration, so we'll make it there on normal super cruise. But I'll speed boost it just to kind of shorten the time down. And hopefully I won't end up doing the loop of shame. All right, 1,000 is fine. We might end up passing it. Nope, we slowed down to the blue area before we got there. In the old method, we literally would have to come into this instance, pick up the materials, leave the instance in Super Cruise, log out of the game completely, come back into the game, go back into Super Cruise, and pick the nearest signal that was next to us, and that would be the high encoded, to go back in, pick up 15 more, and then you repeat that whole tedious process, max out that category. And that change will allow you to track down different signal sources and gather the materials of multiple signals of different qualifying type and trade them down. And it's much faster trading them down from rank 5 than it is to do that loop in Dave's Hope over and over and over for an hour. Here, I could pick this material up and trade it down. And since this system is a war, I'll have a 50-50 chance to get military grade alloys and or imperial shielding. Once I have those two categories up, I would just jump to the next system, right? I would just jump to the next system. Here you go. And I would check for those signals over there. As I previously bought in the previous episode, I bought the cargo rack and the collector limpet, and that this is the reason I bought those two items, so that I could just drop limpets and pick all this stuff up. This will take a while, so I'm going to pause the video and resume once I got all this stuff picked up. All right. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to pick this up. Okay, I'm back. I'm cruising over to... These are the systems that I've gone to. I had to log out for a little bit to do some real life stuff. All right. You, Here are some system ideas of where you could find more signals. Muong, HIP here. Then there's this is a little bit further. All right, this system was because I went up to ROS 775, and all of these systems along the route offered high encoded signals. Well, most of them did. Right? Anyways, most of them did. So ROS 75 is where you could find core dynamics and proprietary. Same thing with the 375 Pegasus. You can find core dynamics and things just right next to ROS. There's along the way, there's the LTE C7. This system also has high encoded. This system, same thing, high encoded. There's literally hundreds and thousands of systems that you could go to that offer high encoded. Maui is right next to Moang. So there's literally a lot of systems that you go to find high encoded signals. I've come back to Ball Station to do some more material trading. After running a round Muang systems, and then I took a route up to ROS 775, which is a Federation space instead of Empire State, to get some different high grade materials, and then back down. So as soon as I get done docking, I want to show you how quickly you could actually gather manufacturing materials by utilizing the frontier development changes to the high encoded signals that allow you to max out one category at a time. The only exception to that is the photo light and the core dynamic drop areas that offer two different types of manufacturing materials. The core dynamics drops with the proprietary composites. The photo light drops with the photo radolic. So sometimes you have to go to multiple instances to max those out. I've done some material trading earlier off screen, but you go and use the material trader here, and like if I needed more chemical distillatories, I could trade any one of these rank 5s to get it, right? Since I knew that, right? I'm going to trade 20 of this to get 30 of the chemical distillatories. You could literally go through this whole process. Like one military, like when you click on the item that you want, this is the conversion type. So one military grade alloy is 27 heat ceramics, right? One of this makes 3 of this. You're going to use a lot of those. And so on down the process. Right. Since I know I'm going to need improvised components, I'm going to trade 30 of the proto heat, and I'll trade 30 of the imperial shielding. To get at least 10 improvised components. And I did the same thing for pharmaceutical isolators because you're going to use those to dirty drive and drag your thrusters. And you're going to need exquisite crystals for your frameshift drive and a couple of other blueprints. This is the second most Core Dynamics gets a lot of hull reinforcements and armor. Anywho, you can see that you could actually trade down and get more materials quickly across the board than having to do the whole drive around and get the same. And you have high grade materials that if you actually need to go back and pick up extra, whatever, trade down to get a little bit more because you used them up, the conversion is much more favorable. It's much more favorable. All right, that's that. We've got the manufacturing materials to do our run of engineers, and next up will be getting the raw materials, talking engineers.